If I was starting over in medical coding, this is what I would do different. Medical coding can be a super lucrative career, but it's important to start out on the right foot. I'm going to show you the best way that you can get started in medical coding so you can get up to speed and start making lots of money and enjoy your career today. Hey everyone, I'm Victoria. I'm a medical coder, auditor, educator, and content creator, and on my channel, I provide tips, tricks, and tutorials to help you be successful in a medical coding career. Let me take you back in time and tell you first about my original journey into medical coding. So I started out back in 2007, and back then there really wasn't a lot of online training options. I, at that time, was going through a career switch. I originally had gone to college after high school for web design and decided that I enjoyed it, but it wasn't what I wanted to do for my career. I went to my community college originally to get into a program as a medical secretary because I saw that it included some billing and coding stuff. And when I got there, I found out from one of the admission people that they had a full business program that provided training in medical billing. So I went and got a certificate in medical billing and coding. After that, I was offered an internship at one of the local healthcare organizations. They were just forming their physician group. It was at the time where independent practices were really going to the wayside and a lot more healthcare providers were being bought up. Their practices were being bought up by large hospital-based healthcare organizations. So with all the growth going on, they were hiring like crazy, and I got hired off of my internship. I started out in charge entry, which was literally just looking at the bills where the provider circled the codes for the services that they provided, and then I would just enter that into the billing system. I took on a lot of great projects and had some great experience while I was there, but I did stay in charge entry for a while because I had difficulty growing into different areas of the organization. I did get certified. I had my CPCA and took a second job teaching medical coding at a local technical school in the evenings. It actually took me a few years to get a job where my job responsibility was really day-to-day medical coding. And it took me a while to get my apprenticeship status removed from the AAPC for my CPC certification because the program that I went through with the AAPC instructor in my area didn't give me a full 80 contact hours. I think it was like 56 or something. So I had all of my paperwork together to submit to have my apprenticeship removed, and then realized that I didn't have the contact hours. So I had to wait the full 2 years of experience until I could get my apprenticeship status removed. They didn't have Practicode, I believe, at the time. So the first thing I would do differently would likely be my training. I have nothing against my community college. I think they did a good job, and I'm sure they've made a lot more advancements since then, but it was a very rudimentary program. For example, when I learned medical terminology, they had a nurse teaching it. She would basically write like 15, 20 terms on the board. We'd write them down. She'd tell us what they meant. And the next day we'd take a test on them, and then she'd write another several terms on the board. So it was not as engaging. Like when I started teaching at the technical school, they said that they had a really fantastic medical terminology learning program there that was a little bit more juvenile, they would say, but it helped you remember the terms. One of the things I've done as a YouTuber, because I can't individually teach such a huge amount of people that are requesting me to teach them the CPC, I've partnered with an organization that is the premier. Like, they are the ones that I recommend if you want to get training in medical billing and coding. And if you want to learn more about the best way to get into medical billing and coding without going into student loan debt, and you want to learn more about the salaries of medical coding, what the career aspects are like, and just, what is the best program that I recommend, you want to go to my medical coding masterclass. I have that linked in the description below. It gives you that like A to Z roadmap of how do I go from someone who has absolutely zero healthcare experience to someone who is going to be job ready as a medical coder on my own time. It seriously just takes away all of the guesswork, so definitely check out the link in the description for my medical coding masterclass. So I would definitely get training from the program that I recommend in my medical coding masterclass if I was starting out today. I've thought in the past about going and maybe getting an associate's degree, but for what I want to do in medical coding, I don't think even an associate's degree would be warranted. In fact, an associate's degree alone won't get you much. A bachelor's degree will get you certain things if you are looking to get into advanced career roles. Compliance, if you're looking to get into management, those are the areas where they are more so looking for those 4-year degrees. I've seen more and more organizations that certain positions they used to require a bachelor's degree for, at least in this industry, where they've now said we want a bachelor's degree or we will take X amount of years of experience. So, really depending on where you are, the whole 2-4 year degree thing, it can be complicated because, some people just want the additional education. That's awesome if you do. But if you spend a lot of money out of pocket on a bachelor's degree program and you don't plan on doing an advanced career where you would make more money doing that, you're not going to get paid more as a medical coder just for having a bachelor's degree. So in some cases, if you're just planning on staying as a medical coder or even an auditor, but you're paying student loans out for a degree and you're not making extra money because they're not going to compensate you just for the sake of having that degree, you'll actually wind up with less money in your pocket because you're going to have to pay out student loans and you're not going to be making extra, you're not going to be recuperating extra money through your financial compensation through your organization. The second thing I think I would change is I wouldn't have stayed in charge entry as long as I did. I think there were some projects that I worked on that were really helpful in shaping my career, but it was also very hurtful. I was a totally different person back then too, to be honest with you. But I didn't want that stigma of being someone who switched jobs. I grew up with parents who were baby boomers and they stayed with the organizations that they worked at for decades. So I was under the impression that that's what it was expected of me, that I found an organization, I stayed faithful to it, and I stayed there for decades. And that is definitely not the case anymore. The job market right now does not frown on you switching jobs fairly frequently, and oftentimes you can use job switching to leverage increases in your pay. I think a lot of the medical coders right now that complain like, oh, well, I work in medical coding and I don't make that much money, I make X, Y, Z, you have to take that initiative. You are the one that agrees to what your salary is going to be. If they say we're only going to pay you $15 an hour and you say, yes, I accept, that's all they're going to pay you. You have to advocate for yourself. And now it's a lot easier because the job search can be much more aggressive than when I started out. When I started out, you had to look for job advertisements in the newspaper, or occasionally someone might reach out to you from monster.com. And, if you crossed your fingers, you might actually get something that was related to your field. Oftentimes it was call center work or something. But if I was starting out, I would be much more aggressive. I would set up a LinkedIn profile. I would post all the things I was doing, the engagement, the studying, the associations, and start getting engaged, start getting connected with recruiters to build myself up a little faster. So if I was starting out now, I would definitely use things like LinkedIn more to my advantage. I think I still would have worked that second evening job teaching, even though some days that meant that I was going from the wee morning hours until literally 10 o'clock at night. And it was not exactly the most healthy time in my life because I was also going through then the drive-through at Taco Bell at 10:30 at night on my drive home because I just wanted to eat and go to sleep. So it was a stressful time, but I think I still would have done that. And honestly, I don't think I've talked about this a lot, but one of the reasons I got that job so readily is because they didn't know a lot of other people that were willing to apply to it. And also, I kind of devalued myself. I didn't take as much money as I could have in that position because I really wanted that experience. But I think putting myself in a teaching role really forced me to speak more, to learn how to navigate waters under pressure when eyes are on you, and it really helped build me and shape me for future speaking engagements. So those are the big things that I would do different. I would train online and at my own pace. I wouldn't drive into the city and do it that way. I would still get my CPC certification. I would leverage LinkedIn and all of those recruiters and networking to the best of my ability. I would still work with my local chapter a lot because that was definitely a huge stepping stone in my career, was all of the connections I made, all the opportunities that opened up to me by being active in my AAPC local chapter. I would also more readily switch to different organizations where I could be better mentored in the medical coding nuances. I would definitely continue to learn about all of the changes that are going on in the industry. I probably would have also stayed more ahead of ICD-10-CM, maybe have gotten ahead of that and started doing, workshops and stuff on my own so I could make more profit from that. If you are interested in a career in medical billing and coding, definitely check the link in my description for my masterclass. It is really the premier program. They're going to include all of the training resources that you are going to need to be successful. I hope you liked this video. Definitely don't forget to give it a thumbs up. I will see you guys in the next video, and until then, just keep on coding on.